Hey, welcome everybody to Friday Night at the Crib. I've posted a link on the in the chat and on the right hand side in case anybody would like to join us. And for those participating in Bounty, I hope you're having a wonderful time. Personally, I'm not participating, but I think this time we have some current panel members and anybody else that's out there in the viewing audience would like to join us that's participating in Bounty or has found a solution for the blueprint that we saw called the King's Writ. So I guess I'll introduce everybody at this point. The Holsch.
Gig 'em.
Okay. Magic Mike.
Howdy ho, y'all looking swell.
Right. And Senior Dano.
Everyone.
And Two Doors.
Science.
And this is Hefe. And we're already getting quotes from more games in chat. And so let's see. Who is participating in Bounty? I know. And we just got joined by the TSM.
Hello, mate.
Howdy.
I'll see if I can talk tonight.
Yeah, you were. What were you out in the weather? Because you're. Or were you at some crazy kids concert where you were yelling your head off?
Either way, I lost my voice, though.
Okay, we won't discuss it. Alrighty, so I'm thinking it's the latter. So who is participating in Bounty, and how are they finding it at this point?
It's like Where's Waldo?
So you have too many points, and you can't find anybody to hit.
I can't find any 99s. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And but are you running into the problem that I've seen other people have had historically, where you have too much bounty that you can't get bounty from hitting players? And I know you have your rages, and you've sort of stepped back from your PvP hauls since then.
Mm-hmm.
But so you're basically doing it as a PvE event.
Yeah, personally, I am. I mean, I must admit, I feel a bit cruel, but I have found some really low-level bases with some crazy amounts of bounties. So they got smashed, I'm afraid. But,
okay. These things will happen.
17.5K at the moment.
Okay.
So doing okay.
So you're on track to at least get the King's Writ.
Yeah, I just want one of those. That's what I want. I'm just a plank. I don't care about anything else.
Yeah, well, you're forced to get two, but yeah.
Well, is it two? Is it?
Yeah, we're forced to get two.
I have good news and bad news.
Well, I need something other than a rage, even if it's just for a tank.
So, Daniel, are you doing it in a similar way?
Yeah.
Basically PvE besides low-hanging fruit?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Hulse, you're out there just hitting everybody, aren't you?
No, I've just been sitting in my base watching my bounty points go up.
Okay. You're not hitting the PvE targets?
I haven't hit anything yet.
Okay. Because it doesn't seem with the change in the payout the payout structure as far as the timing and the increase in cost of the prizes that you're going to get much with that strategy, right?
Yeah, I'm on the lookout for 99s whenever I'm on, but other than that, I'm just chilling for now.
Okay. Alrighty. Brian, you're not participating?
Nope. Do not care.
Okay. All right. Well, I
wasn't supposed to. Unfortunately, I clicked that button.
It doesn't have a pop-up because last time it had a secondary pop-up.
It did, but I was in the middle of doing my FM and I was doing it with my icebreakers quickly, and I was just like going back in and dumping res because I was obviously doing some walls as ever. And I was just like, oh yeah, click, click, get out. And I was like, what's that popped up? I was like, oh no.
They still put the button right in the stupid spot
Yeah, and it's still the same color.
inside.
Yeah.
Before you have to want to go over there and click it.
You have to click 3 buttons though to do it, because I did it through the dock just to see it, how much it required. Because there's the initial click, and then in your dock, then there's the click to on the main bounty pop-up screen. Then there's the click to do your outpost.
I still think you can do it wrong. I've made multiple bad clicks before.
Well, I'm blaming Manflu.
Yeah, I will in the future.
Yeah, and has anybody figured out what the madness is of the King Ritz blueprint? I mean, the only thing I can think of is we don't, because it's never been explained to us, and there's obviously some huge graphical errors that are going on with splash dispersion that we may not even know how it works. We may not know where it gets introduced at certain points, and if it's a either or it almost seems like we don't understand splash dispersion at this point in time for them to put this blueprint out there, where I've been trying to find different ways to overcome the deflections, and the only thing I can assume is your big push is for minimum damage, and that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. And I don't think it's even going to make the people that are avid base hitters and do win this. I don't think it's going to make them happy in 2 or 3 weeks when they can't defend their own bases.
I think you're right.
You mean 1 to 2 days after bounty, not a couple weeks?
Well, yeah. Well, no. Well, then it's the really big coiners. They're going to have it in 1 day after bounty. Then they're going to be hitting by the scrubs, getting hit by the scrubs that they would never have been afraid of before. That now have it, they can crack their base.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they're going to get upset. So I'm saying, they won't be happy in a week or 2.
Yeah, but by the time the rest of the player base catches up, they probably would have a turret or something that'll counter it.
But is there not I haven't taken a good look at that part of it. Is there a turret that is going to take care of the King's Writ that's not going to just obliterate everything else? Is
Nope.
there a way? Is there a way that they can just eliminate one ship? And I won't use the same wording that I used in the pregame or the pre-show. But is there? It seems like they boxed themselves in the corner unless we know more about splash dispersion and how it works, because it seems that's the stumbling block that I see is you can break through the deflections, but once you add that base splash dispersion and then you start putting war plates on there, and the war plates are not going to add up to 90. Was it 70.8 is what they would probably actually add up to, even though the display in the in your shipyard and everywhere in the game is going to say 60 plus 10 plus it's going to say 89 point whatever because it's not shown. But it can't be the way it's working. Because I have the examples with splash dispersion in my base where I have 105% splash dispersion, and I know that's not true. So since they haven't talked about it, we have to jump to assumptions on the way that it works, at least as far as the way it's calculated. But I don't think that we know how it works, how it interacts with explosive and the actual damage type and deflection. I don't know that we know that at this point. I mean, who knows? It could be getting calculated after deflection. I have no idea. And I just really wish that they would talk about it at some point, and because it was just introduced and it wasn't really a big thing. We just, it was a big thing where people were able to do crazy things with their gluttonies at one point, But now, we've seen the errors as it relates to the Hunter, where we saw that they have you could stack 4 times at a splash dispersion of 40, which would get you to 200, which I also don't think, which also can't be true. I mean, there's so many things that, I just wish they would come out and say something and try to explain the way it works and explain the errors in it, at least as far as the display side goes. So.
Hmm.
So, yeah, David says there must be a new damage type coming out which can hurt the King's Writ.
Plasma?
I don't. But again, how is it not going to kill everything else?
I don't see that happening.
Yeah. So, all right.
Maybe the
drug is down that. Go ahead.
Maybe ship damage. I mean, that doesn't have a damage type. It's just ship damage. So, I'm guessing that'll be kind of like plasma.
Are you talking about like assault DPS, or are you talking about
assault
something
DPS
like
like assault DPS or something like that?
I mean, that already exists, and they could do that.
Yeah, or some sort of boost to thorns. But again, it's gonna. I don't know. It seems to remove some sort of strategy from the game, because then everything's gonna. All the damage types are gonna come down to this invisible damage type that's showing up, and it seems to remove a fair amount of strategy. This suit me mentions damage over time. Damage over time. Yeah, that's what I was getting for. Then what we talked about on Wednesday, the damage over time that we've seen previously has been based on stacks, and this ship is completely unreactive. So it's yeah. On the Wednesday show, I tried to figure out different ways to break it, and I even found a way to do it with Tide Seekers until you start putting warplating on it. But yeah, I'm in a conundrum at this point as far as what they're actually trying to do here. So I'll get off my soapbox in case anybody else would like to add anything in, and I will again post the link to the show in case anybody would like to join us.
I mean,
So.
and this has happened too with stun resist in the last raid cycle, where it was never properly put into the game, and it's really baffling because it's basically the formula for both of those, as we assume now, that everything else is followed. It's multiplicative. It's just like resistances. You have 50%, or I guess, let's say you have 60% resist. You add something that gives 50%, it's 50% of what's left, the other 40%. So you add it together, 60 plus half of the 40, 60 plus 20 to 80. That's what you get. And it's just not showing up that way. And when we ask about it, we either get ignored or we get, oh, it's working properly behind the scenes. Well, then why can't you show us that? The main function of how things are done in a game is additively and multiplicatively, and you have proper capabilities for displaying both. Do it. Especially when they're as important as splash damage reduction to the ships and stun resist to the ships. There's just no excuse. I think they're getting away with not showing the hunter thing because really there's no way to tell how many auras you have in a fleet. They never actually put in the stat block, you have 5 auras stacked. This is your total stats. They don't do that. And that makes sense. It would be a little difficult to design for what they have to do to display that properly. I mean, given that they're just screwing up or not doing the simpler things, it's hard to be fair and ask them to do more complex things. But it's
because they still haven't fixed. Because I filed a ticket because somebody encouraged me to file tickets over these things where I find to be discrepancies, and I filed a ticket on the delirium torpedo. It's the fact that it shows twice the damage that it does in the shipyard. And they're like, oh, we're aware of that and we're working on it. That's been going on for how long? Where it's if you look at the blueprint number and then you put it on a ship, even if you put it on a skirmisher, it's going to double the damage that it does, even if there's no bonuses associated with the hull or any specials that are on it. It's automatically doubling it. And they've had, how long have we had this? It's going to be what, 8 weeks?
A couple months.
Yeah, a couple months, and that still hasn't been fixed. So I'm assuming that's going to go the route of the Cesium Scarab in regards to them not adding the deflection on any of the ships that it's equipped to. And there must be something really complicated that we're missing, that they can't change these. They can't change these numbers, because I don't know that they're. I mean, I don't know. Has anybody done any testing to figure out if the Delirium torpedo is doing the blueprint damage or the shipyard damage? Because it should be easy to figure out if you tested it, because it's doing it's one is double the other, so it should be easy to figure out. Well, nobody's very talkative tonight.
I guess that's a no.
Okay.
Not here, no.
I'm too busy doing like crazy BP juggling with this whole the Hunter, the new version of the Hunter campaign.
Yeah.
That it's ridiculous. I believe they added in the 8th target, but I can't be sure. Like the mastery round now has an 8th target, where I think before the mastery round was just the same 7 that you were doing to get to that point, and all the targets hit harder.
Yeah, that's true.
I never lost my flag ever for my Skyfires. And I'd do forward instant repair on the map after, then doing the drones in 5 through 8 with them, and saving the other parts for my Phoenixes. The flag died, and it was 6 hours of repair on my Skyfires, and about 3 hours of repair on my Phoenixes for one mastery run through. I don't know what they did with the missile turrets, especially in those later targets, but it reminds me of the executioners and the high-end targets that we have now for Garrison, like the 113, etc., where the minimum damage is ridiculously high, or they tune the damage up to like 1 million on that turret, split across 4 salvos, and then taken down to account for 95% resist and however many 100 siege deflection. And the thing is, we didn't really get any escalation. Not necessarily. If you're going to count siege battery 3 up to 4 and siege targeting 3 up to 4, you're grasping at straws, because turrets are not the main portion of this
The damage is the drones.
this type of target, the assault type. It's the drones, and it's supposed to be the ships in in assault type. It's not supposed to be the turrets. They deal damage, sure, and you got to account for that, but I feel like of the total health pool and difficulty of, well, the total health pool, they're probably more, but that's not the fault of the health pools. That's the fault of the drones having so much evade. Mm-hmm. The difficulty and damage on the target is in the ships. So wanting us to have heavy building damage where buildings aren't the primary focus is bad design. And these targets weren't designed poorly. They were designed very well. The tuning for it now, whoever messed with the numbers probably messed with it a little too much, in the eyes of the players at any rate.
Yeah, well, I guess the only escalation would be Speed System 6.
I mean, barely going to help. It's not going to get the Skyfires out of range of the drones or Berserking Pancake, or like you might get out of the Firepool launcher weapon thingy a second sooner.
Mm-hmm.
All right. but it's not worth the time to put on the ships.
And the drones in that 8 target are hovercraft, so you have to they'll go almost to the middle of that island if you're using it.
Oh yeah, the thing that they fixed and then didn't fix and had conflicting opinions as to whether or not it was intended that drones, not UAVs, drones, could go through land.
Mhm.
That thing? Yeah, that thing.
And they got some fantastic charged armors on them too, because they take forever to kill.
They took 3 shots for me, which is about what they were taking when I did the raid.
But I'm in the wrong spot then or something, because
What do you have on your ships? What are they?
I have a mixture of the
Manus.
Mix of.
Manus and the other one.
Wait, Phoenixes?
That's what I'm using for that. Those targets, those drones that are way in the back. I lure them
What's the
out to
last
the island and then park them at the island.
I've never used Phoenixes on that target, so I can't say.
Ah. Okay. Well, I lure them up to that little island that's in front of the pancake there, and just set and pick them off. So they're not firing at me, and they're halfway into the island, and it takes significant amount of time. Maybe it's just me. But, they're halfway into the land, and they absorb a lot of heat.
Yeah, I think they probably should have. I mean, I have a guess what they're doing is they're trying to equivalate the amount of gold people are spending on repairs to the amount of the return that they're getting, which is again is random. I mean, if you do it once, you're getting 4 days of, if you do it right and get lucky, you're getting 4 days of build time, which is a lot of gold. Otherwise, that they're trying to make you pay for in repairs.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like the player base is that happy with that. So I think potentially, people might be happier if they had lowered the potential prizes and made them non-random and lowered the damage and didn't increase the damage in such a way. So they were more obtainable, more fun and whatnot, but didn't have such a large payout. And therefore they didn't feel that they needed to sort of extract their their pound of extract as much blood or gold from us in order to complete them and gain that goal. I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I think, because I think the payouts seem pretty high, and they're making us pound of flesh. There we go.
Well, and again, you get the random drop in the chest too, so you don't know if you're getting a one day or 4 days.
Yeah. Which is we've complained about before as far as the randomness of it and how that impacts the game forward. As far as if one player is getting 4 times as many tokens as another player, and then the raid targets and other things are adjusted for somebody close to 4, maybe 3 or higher end of the average than you managed to get, you're not doing well.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems with this whole thing about the chests.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are they, they are programming this. They know exactly what percentage drops what token. And even though they could be nice and tune it to the proper expected value, one, that does not ensure in any way that any one person would get the expected value on any attempt. And 2, they could just not program it to the proper EV in the first place. They could see that if the EV says, on average, people were going to be getting a day and a half of build tokens. If they program it such that the average is 2 or 2.5, well, that's negative for the players. And when you already have targets that are more damaging than the last raid of the cycle, when we aren't really given a proper escalation from that onward, that's bullshit. That is incredibly unethical design. And the person that's making those decisions, maybe they think it's good for business, but along with some of the other things that they've done this week, I'm not really sure that how they can continue to think that way. I don't think that person's right, and I think that if they continue to delineate their sources of revenue properly, I think a lot of the gold that they got this month is going to be from that OneCoin blitz that they offered in error and then did intentionally as an awkward sort of test, which has nothing to do with how well are we making sure that you are an actual like god of assault targets a month and a half after that cycle has ended and there is no longer any real point to that, while you're still building ships, by the way, for the skirmish cycle, which now you need to build 2 fleets for. They have not properly adjusted anything in the game yet for the expectation of the players having to build 2 fleets. And they're going to say that it's not an expectation, but they've still messed with the points per hour. They still messed with the points per target for the only comparison we have, which is the first raid in the cycle of this month versus 3 months ago. They've lowered those, and they've raised the build times on these ships. So the amount of power that a player has entering each raid in the cycle is lower in general before even applying this 2 fleet requirement than to what we had 3 months ago. And now they're asking for more, even more than that. And they're not going to get it. They're just not, unless everybody wants to pony up, I don't know, $20 and get like 13 days of Fangtooth build tokens or whatever the heck LTO they have about that, and then do that. But then that's $20. You know, is that going to be a monthly thing? Because at that point, and that's even to keep up in like the PvE portion of the game. At that point, just give us a subscription game.
Mm-hmm. That's what it kind of boils down to, isn't it?
I mean, monetizing for free to play is really weird because it's all, you know, against your competition, and for BP in particular, they started a long time ago before the guidelines were really set. But within the past few years, I mean, I guess they've tried to do War Commander Rogue Assault, and I don't know how well that's priced in comparison, but I've heard bad things, but I can't really say for sure. And this game, they've just kept with the archaic model while offering on occasion up to a 40% discount. But even seeing a game that I saw that is a free-to-play model that came out a few years ago, in the earlier days of BP, the amount of money invested per time is worse in BP than it is in the other game, even taking into account that BP is giving you a quote-unquote deal. It's not a deal. It's a deal over their price, which is still incredibly extortionary, to something that is only sort of extortionary.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. If you want good value, go play another game. There's no good value for you here. Turn around and go somewhere else and be happy. Go treat yourself to a steak dinner. It's going to cost you less than 5 icebreakers that are built with specials that are illegal if we try to use them in game. Perfect segue. Nailed it.
All right, I'm going for a beer. Rum,
Yes.
you've been quiet. I know you could fill some time with Brian and whoever else while I'm getting a beer.
Who? Me?
Yeah.
All hail Kixeye and its greatness.
Okay.
You guys aren't used to that, are you?
I mean, this is going to be like Zardoz, where we just open up the mouth and there's guns everywhere, and it's a lie. Where's your god now?
Mhm.
Hello,
I mean-
everybody.
Hi, Rob.
Oh, no.
You doing bounty, Rob?
Of course I am.
You doing well in bounty?
I've got 11,000 secured.
Well adjusted for expectations. Like that sounds pretty good. You having
No,
fun?
it sucks.
Well-
I was just asking a question in the chat to see if the bounty jackpots have been out yet today.
I saw them the first day. I got 2 of them the first day and haven't seen them since.
Not from
Okay.
what I hear. But,
Well, I didn't see them yesterday. They said they come out at like 6:00. Which, how do you guys feel about the way they spawn the bounty? I mean, I know bounty is not everybody's favorite thing, and I know some people love it, some people don't.
do you
but-
mean like the PVE targets or like the grant generation? What
I
do you
don't
mean?
like the. I
Yeah,
don't like
the PvP that breaks out into a PvE event.
I think that's more of a statement on the state of base hitting, because right now, not only do we have OP10, but almost everyone that's at the top end has gotten their relevant things done. Like I'm building my conquest yard and I don't have any turrets that are level 9, but you don't really need any at this point. There hasn't been a hull necessarily that's challenged an OP10 base since the last bounty. If you could do well in the last bounty,
Well, I don't
you
know.
could do well here. I mean, there's the
I-
twin
I-
blade.
Yeah, the twin blade's actually not bad. I mean, if you've got it set up, I don't know that correctly is the right word because I'm not sure mine are, but I've been having some pretty good success getting into bases. I've only been stopped once, and I do have 2 twin blades. One has no armor, and I think I've got one that's built wrong, but I'm still getting into bases.
Yeah, I'd have thought that they'd all go evade heavy, because
Well-
their two weaknesses are what, ballistic and penetrative, right?
Right?
Yeah, so that, well, there's pen plates as well, but evade counters both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought if you put anything on, unless you had some particular reason to run heavy splash dispersion, you'd run evade.
Right. And like I
Yay.
said,
I don't know the theory. Not in PvP, I don't. I just do numbers and hope. I'm not sure what the problem is too with the twin blade, because okay, actually I can compile a few things to the problem with the twin blade. I mean, a lot of people, well, I guess compared to what Kix thinks they thought might get the twin blade, maybe more people got the twin blade than they were expecting, but the thing is, a lot of those people wouldn't have their conquest yard finished yet, or maybe have it just finishing up between last bounty and this. And they can't spare time for PvE builds in their normal shipyard, PvP builds on the normal shipyard, because they're all busy doing their 2 fleets they have to do for this raid cycle. So they're busy doing that on the conquest yard, but there's a limiting factor of titanium in the conquest yard. And at that point, you might not be able to just put a completely done fleet in, coin the lot, move to the next one. There's a cooldown period. You have to go get your titanium so that you can finish it up. So I think those factors in combination are leading to maybe a lack of the twin blade doing as well as it should, or as people are expecting it to.
no, I don't. I mean, it's been a pretty fun boat. Like I said, I've got evade on one of mine, but it's not set up exactly the way I want it to. And the other one, I mean, they're both still getting in.
Yeah, it's weird because I looked at the when I look at the twin blade and when I look at the King's Writ, they're both tier 6.5.
Mhm.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, nobody's seen the King's Writ yet, so let's give it a chance.
I mean,
Well, based on the blueprints, and that's one of the frustrating parts about what's been going on with the game, is you can't trust the blueprints.
Exactly.
And that's, I mean, we've asked for additional things to be added, and some things have been added to the blueprints, but there's so much in there. Like, we don't know what the pass-through is on some of that stuff. I mean, they could have gone back to the tier 5 way of calculating pass-through. So the higher the deflection, the more pass-through there is. They didn't do, when they got to tier 6, they stopped doing that. But we don't know at this point in time what the case is, and it's interesting marketing. I'm not a marketing major, but it's like you're sort of forced to go and buy something that you don't know what it is. You're buying a used car that, from one of those paying, buy here, pay here lots that you have no idea how it's going to work until you've paid for it. And then, and both, both the event and then building it, to figure out what the proper build is and whatnot. I just wish there was more information available. Maybe not in the blueprint proper, but somewhere in the forums or something that's more consolidated, like some sort of informational website that they put together that provides additional information on these ships.
Well, much like your rant on splash dispersion, I've been on this blueprint deal forever. The unexpected consequences that you get, or the benefits from trying weird stuff, it's too expensive to try that. They should come out and say X works with Y. All that information. Go ahead.
I don't know. I would like X works with Y, but I would like to have more details. I don't know that I would like X works with Y, because that's oversimplified for me. I would just rather have more details in order to make a decision.
But if you've got the hidden attributes on the blueprint, how the hell do you know it's going to work?
No, I'm saying don't quit hiding them. Give me more information to make a proper decision.
That's what I'm saying. If you're not going to put the information out there, then there needs to be an X works with Y. If you're going to put the information on the blueprint, then no, there doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be oversimplified. I just want to know what's on there and make sure it's correct.
So, first of all, Kixeye, a lot of times I feel like, is the dad from Matilda, where he would turn back the odometer and sell very used cars at like, oh, this car has 5,000 miles on it. Haha. And just beat the heck out of you. Also, in the side chat, dang it, Google. Kix is turning this game into a buy your way out of disaster solution. Over 30 LTOs this week. And the 2-aid requirement is Farcical. That's a word. I mean, it's from Farce, but per TSM in the side chat here. And yeah, I mean, I think so. And I think one of the problems...
I think there's an S missing. It's a word, but I think there's an S missing. I think that's why you had a hard time with it. I could be wrong on the spelling. I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to...
Farce, F-A-R-C-E from that, but anyway. Yeah, I'd think so, considering how much they're trying to sell everything at this cost. And if it's a buy your way out of disaster solution, and I mean, it's looking like that, if they're just spamming you offers for everything and they're trying to shove it down your throat to say that you need these offers, to buy your way out of disaster, that means they need to assume that the average player is in disaster in the first place. And if they do that, I'm not sure whether they're underestimating the intelligence of what they consider the average player, and the preparedness and the tech depth of the average player. But if you think that the average player is in a state of disaster, you have made a bad game. Like, that's just it. If you think that on average people are significantly behind to the point where they'd need to buy a quote-unquote deal to catch up, you've done something wrong. I understand that you need to make money from people, and that's what the LTOs are trying to do. But if you're trying to sell them a task that's impossible unless they buy the LTO tokens and use them, then people might just not buy them and slog on with whatever they got, or just turn around and quit if they see very obvious paywalls that pop up every single time you enter the game, which is incredibly infuriating. I don't want to have to click off 2 things every time I want to do anything. But if you're trying to do that, then it's like, it's not even good marketing. It's just in your face blast marketing, and people have become desensitized to that after years of exposure to it. Get good at marketing.
Okay. I mean, the other thing that I've noticed is we tend to get those LTOs for something that's going to come out in a TLC right beforehand, because we got the hunter and all that kind of stuff coming out, the hunter tokens and whatnot, and DXP. A lot of stuff that we're able to win this week was a LTO earlier in the week. Maybe they're just trying to show, okay, a price point. You know, like, okay, this is what it cost in dollars, and now this is what it costs to do it in the TLC. So if it's $100 and whatever dollars, I'm like, oh, I can do this for 15. Then it seems like a deal, right? If you're following what I'm saying.
I mean, sort of, yeah. I think that's one of the big things that they do, is they use player skill, or I guess ability, as a sort of rebate. If you can do this TLC, you can get this $50 worth of value for the amount you paid to complete the TLC.
Yeah.
And I think over time they're kind of cranking the expected amount of people having to coin up, as can be seen with this versus the past TLC. I mean, the prizes didn't get a whole lot better, really, until you get to the last level, and then you can make the claim of an Apex Hunter token and Apex Hunter build. But you know what? My Apex Hunter is skulled right now from a good run in VXP weekend and the skirmish tokens they gave to me last month, so I don't need those. And I still have skirmish tokens, just in the back pocket waiting for the escalation, so I don't necessarily need the build tokens either, but I'll take them.
But that charged armor's kind of a little bit at a premium right now too, though.
Oh, I mean, it's a necessity.
Yeah, and it's in that last prize pack.
There's 1 in 4, I think.
Yeah.
The fourth, or the one before the mastery.
4 more, right?
And I think it's a little weird because the way that a blade of armor and the auras on the hunter and splash damage reduction works, all of that is putting people in the direction of you actually need more CT armor than you do X. So that creates an extra demand for it.
Right.
I want to do 2 and 2 of everything, but now I want to do 3 and 1 on my hunters. So I need 25 armor instead of 20. And last month I thought it was done, but it wasn't.
Yeah, but the hunters, you can still have a chance to go out and get more CTs. Because that was interesting how they had a lower limit on the X's than they did on the CTs. They were sort of leading us in some sort of direction at that point. Because you could get, 10 CTs and 5 X's in the last raid.
But we'd already had 3 months plus of X's being widely available, TLCs. So that the supply was there.
Yeah.
For the X's.
For the X's, but it wasn't for the CTs.
Right.
Which is probably why they're offering more CTs.
Like, didn't we only have the opportunity for like 19 up until just recently?
I mean, it was 10 from the raid. Yeah, 10 from the raid and 9 from all the TLCs.
Right.
And normally, 19 means you're good and you just don't add one somewhere.
But that's 10 from 2 raids. 2 raids.
No, it was 1 raid and all the TLCs.
I got 25.
Yeah, it's 29 was the max because you had the first. It was available in the previous raid.
Yeah, there was 10 in that. So yeah, you could have 29 total.
Yeah.
For this. There's certainly no shortage of it, but a significant portion of them is, well, I mean, they were locked behind high point requirements in the last few raids, so that's not really fair of me to say, but
Well, were some of them in those chests that gave more than one? Because I know I've gotten everything that has been available. My total is 23.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you
Total-
have
total, including built
yes.
and
Yeah,
available?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, it says, wait a minute.
Oh, I got 29.
Well, wait, I'm sorry. It says total limited built 23, total limited available 9. So if they add those two together, I guess. But I did the campaign already here a couple times.
Yeah, 32. Yeah, that's about where you should be. If you're not completely done. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Because that 19 number stuck in my head for some reason.
I mean, because it was how much you could get going into the actual first skirmish raid.
Okay,
Caressive Steel.
okay. Yep. That's right.
Yeah. And has anybody noticed it's what's the new raid called?
Trial by fire.
Trial by
Journey?
Fire. So yeah, they've gone from Rush to Journey. So who is going to be the next band that I'm assuming this is a GDA thing. Who's the next band? Rush, Journey.
We already had Trial by Fire also, so
Wish they'd go back to this. No.
That was what I was waiting for. Was there was already a raid named Trial by Fire several years ago, and I would like those targets to come in. Oh, I don't know. They might have different damage types. But we have shift deflection is probably fine. Could probably take those on.
may have not done that raid. Trying to remember.
Well, actually, then the Zealous would actually do really well because it's got a really high deflection and resistances against everything, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what else. The randomness. Well, let me start by saying that I don't think build tokens are necessary for the game. The way everybody seems to love to have them because they're all accounted for at the end of the day. I'm sort of going backwards because they're accounting for them in the metrics that they see as far as people hitting targets and whatnot. So if they took away all the build tokens and whatnot, probably wouldn't change the difficulty of the PvE targets because they're already looking at how the player base is interacting with those PvE targets. But I still want to just say I don't like the random thing again because now you're potentially giving now some of this hunter thing has been repeated again. So now you could have players that completed it and some have 8, some have 32. I mean, these are the extremes, but the player that has 24 more days of build tokens is going to really throw off the metrics relative to somebody that only got 8.
But the thing with that too is you'd think that the 8s would balance out the 32s in the end, but law of large numbers and all that, there's no guarantee if you're leaving it to randomness, not actually going in and manipulating individual chests, which is way too tinfoil for anybody. Even that.
No, we're not, despite what Brian said, we're not saying that you should go manipulate individual chests.
So.
Never mind. Go ahead.
Anyway, that doesn't guarantee that everyone on average is going to receive the EV even on average. Like if average says there's going to be 10,000 days worth of build tokens in the world, the whole everything. There could only be 9,000. there could be 11,000. And there's no real way to get around that. You can't plan for it. And you did this to yourself when you made this random drop system. So I don't, that it's just really bad. I don't like the randomness. I'm a little, ship tokens, because they're required. If you made the game without ship build tokens, you'd obviously have to adjust the build times to compensate, of course. But I feel like if you're, subtracting 10 on one side and 10 on the other, it's not that big a deal. There's still the same difference. And Kixout would still get their money, I'm sure, because there's still that gap. There'd still be that gap of needing to coin so much to be able to get your things done by a certain time. For VXP weekend, for the raid, for adjustments in a TLC, things like that. Other people can talk. I feel bad because I'm like keeping a running total of percent total. I'm talking, and that's way too high right now.
I could try.
Yeah.
It's not going so well.
The first rule is no die.
Did you catch a cold TSM?
Sort of viral thingy, yeah. So I lost my voice in the week for 3 days. It's just coming back now.
I see.
So, yeah, not doing so good.
I guess I could. The way I'm going, I'll lose mine. Keep this up.
You're fine, mate.
And there was a post. I'm sorry.
And you're doing a fine job.
Okay. Thanks. And there was a post in TFC about all the mistakes that Kix had made during the week. They delayed the release, and then they released in the incorrect version of the Hunter campaign. I guess they had the old prizes and old targets in there, and people had started it, and then they stopped it. And 2 hours later, they released, I guess, the proper campaign. There's the wrong version of It's on the King's Writ. So that's still happening. Basic English. If you want proper atmosphere, Word Crimes by Rudel Yankovic. It's a pretty good song if you're reading the release notes. What else did they screw up? The Icebreaker offer. I had already bought that up.
Yeah, that was a classic.
But I didn't even notice because I never got the offer. But then someone posted a picture and they said it was illegal. And yeah, it was an illegal build, and I don't understand how they could even think to sell that. Like, what massive, unprecedented levels of fuck up do you have to reach to have someone create that fleet? Like, who made that fleet? And how removed are they from the game to not understand that that was an illegal build? And how are they given? Well, there's probably some different server that they built things on with different rules.
No,
but then how does that make it to the light?
Take it back to the previous but one video when they discussed on their video that don't forget players don't know how to build fleets.
Oh yeah, we have that build. Yeah.
Exactly.
I was probably going to get to that at some point, but I don't know when. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, I shan't forget that for a while.
Yeah, our builds are legal when you put them in the shipyard, and they're not like $90 for illegal ships.
Is that job still available in QA? I think it still is, isn't it?
I think that might be why the job's still available in QA. Nobody wants it. It's a trap. I called it when they brought it up.
It's a trap.
I mean, that's probably also why the job is there, because what the hell? I mean, I'll compare it to Lord of the Flies again if you like. Bunch of kids on an island doing God knows what.
Is it an actual job or is it an actual excuse?
I mean, if you like being beaten about the head and shoulders, I guess. If you like, what do they call it? Drinking heavily in the middle of the day. Because you might have to do that if you're thinking to survive it. It just seems like pure masochism. I mean, you could be qualified all the heck and, reputation from a good company, and then you go there and it's that you couldn't prepare for this. There was no way to prepare for what you might potentially see. So good luck and Godspeed.
I just walked in. There was no way to prepare for what you actually would see. Is this something that happened behind? Something was going on downstairs. Is this something that happened behind one of those doors?
The after show? I mean, technically that's also a correct answer. I would just rail on them super hard for the illegal icebreaker with assistance from TSM.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry.
No, we're done.
My cynicism's high tonight.
No.
Actually,
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, everything's fine. Was there any actual? No, there were some bug fixes this week. Yeah, so there were some bugs in the game, but all the bugs have been fixed. It's fine.
Oh yeah, the turret wasn't firing all the time. Is what?
Yeah, the turret wasn't firing.
Yeah, I had that twice. My own one didn't fire.
The thing that's the only potential counter to the King's Writ, if we assume that A, it is not a turret, which seems reasonable, but I still don't want to make that assumption because it makes exactly perfect kick size sense to have the Omega Gatling gun, which is not a turret for the effects of fire support and things like that, but is a turret for turret defense. That makes exactly the amount of wrong sense that it would actually happen. But even then, you have to hit them dead center because with the 18,000 deflection and 60% reduction, anything under 45,000 is a no-go. If it's splash and not turret and concussive, which the Omega is probably. And it's 53,000 per salvo on that. But that assumes, again, you're having to hit dead center on a ship that's moving at a speed of almost 80 with SS6. Probably not going to happen, I don't think.
And
And the other thing is, once you add in the warp plating, even using diminishing returns, where you only get to 70.8, that still doesn't overcome the splash dispersion.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, that jump from 60 up does not that negates that. So, sort of like I was saying at the beginning of the show, we don't know how and when and where splash dispersion has never been researched or explained, at least that I'm aware of, to the point where we can actually calculate with any certainty what it means.
Yeah, and I still don't know why they made the King's Writ. Base hitting wasn't vastly in favor of the Defender. Yes, they had to make a ship that would be able to do well in OP10, reasonably stocked bases. Okay, but there is, just looking at the blueprint, and again, it has its own risks doing that, but there is no weapon that can break those deflections any sort of reasonably well, except direct hits on the Omega, and that's got a 45-second reload, which you cannot bring down because it doesn't get the effect of the fire support, so that's a problem. And there was some Tideseeker build sort of discussed, but the problem is you're outranged there by over 10, and they probably won't melt you because you're a Tideseeker and you have concussive resist, and explosive resist too, so if they have sloths on the outside, it's probably fine. But it just, there's a pretty wide gap between this works against very little, if nothing anymore, and this works against literally everything we currently have available, and 99% of it works against it in a fantastic fashion. There's a very wide gap, and they didn't mind the gap, they jumped straight over it. Well, I guess they mind the gap because they jumped straight over it. You got to know about how wide the gap is. But it seems way too good, and I don't I mean, we'll see, you know,
Yeah,
in a
we'll,
few
we'll see
weeks'
how it
time the
plays
actual results. But
Yeah, I mean, the only clue that we've gotten was from that I think it relates to base defense was I can't remember if it was on a show or somewhere else that GDA was saying that switchbacks are the way to go in your base. So I don't know if that increases minimum damage, the chances to get minimum damage, or what that means.
Switch.
I mean, I think
Switch
that's
backs,
just
forcing a lot of turns, making them switch back.
yeah. I think that's just the general design philosophy used to slow the attacker down at more points, while compressing more of the space they have to drive into a shorter space from like a splash standpoint. Because if you're aiming, if they can be anywhere within, you know, the square created by your switchbacks, your splash weapons are going to do so much more because it takes them so much longer to get from out of a radius of, let's say, 40, if they have to go back and around, and as opposed to just going in a straight line.
Well, the other thing is, that's one of the big negatives on the King's Writ is the ratio of combat speed to turn speed. It's normally we see like a 1-to-1 ratio. I don't have the game up right now, but it's nowhere near 1-to-1 like we're used to. It's close to 1-to-1. Usually it's like 1 combat speed to 0.75 or somewhere in that neighborhood turn speed. So I'm just wondering if this thing is not meant to go through tight turns and things of that nature. That's my only guess as far as, does anybody have the game open? Tell me what the
It doesn't. It doesn't have field resist.
yeah, which is a good thing for your glacial, your cannibal Wendigo, and things of that nature.
Combat
So-
speed is 40 and turn speed is 18.
Yeah, 40 to 18 is not what we're used to seeing. I mean, that's it's less than half. You know, the combat speed is more than double what the turn speed is, which means it's not maneuverable, which means it's going to get caught up in switchbacks and things of that nature.
Yeah, but we just got
So-
speed 6, right?
But that doesn't give you any more turn speed
Yeah.
than Speed 5 does.
What are we talking about? I had to step away. I'm sorry.
We're
Um,
talking about the only potential weakness that I've seen as far as the King's Writ goes, as far as the ratio of combat speed to turn speed, and the fact that GDA mentioned at some point that switchbacks, meaning forcing a lot of turns on a player, is a good thing in your base. He also said that the Apex Hunter is going to be the answer to the Fangstooth, but I don't see how that's
No.
working. I mean, I am curious what the escalation weapon is going to be. It's something that's going to fire off those cavitation mortars all the time to make that actually come true. But yeah, I don't see how that's working. But basically, that
What if-
assuming. Go ahead.
What if the escalation weapon, let's say, yeah, it's a little stronger. What if it gave you sonar range? Because it
But
really
still, you're
shouldn't
slower.
give you
You're
thermal
still
range.
slower, and you have less range.
It shouldn't give you thermal range. Well, yeah, I mean,
No,
I'm,
but I
I'm
mean,
willing to
how
take
you
your side as well, that they're just wrong about this.
I'm still going with the cavitation mortars.
I mean, it's
yeah.
it's better than, you know, the reality. It's probably better than anything that actually designed.
Yeah, or it launches the hunter killer mortar, or things like that. I just don't know how. Either that's not going to come to pass.
What if that was the Imperium
Or-
heavy weapon?
Lance?
No, yeah, for this cycle, it's the hunter killer motor for this cycle.
Yeah, there we go. Yep, then our next Lance. So, yeah, TSM says he's going to use Thruster 3 and Hydra Resistor. Does that still give it equal combat and turn speed?
It'll give it 74 combat speed with. Let me check. 81 turn speed.
Okay, so yeah, it does give it more turn speed than combat. Okay.
Yeah, and then that's not even counting the turn speed you get from rank.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 76 and like 90 something. So it'd be fine. I think.
Yeah. So over 100.
Probably. I can't get the exact
All
numbers.
right. Do we have anything to help people with the bounty or the TLCs or anything else as far as like what's upcoming in the game, the next raid? For I don't want to keep on talking about what they're doing at this point that may not be best for the player base. But is there anything that we can provide at this point that is helpful as far as things that people are doing to help them move forward that maybe not everybody knows?
I mean,
Oh yeah, the new FM next week.
oh yeah, that's going to start up.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know enough at this point. I mean, I did want to. Once the Spirit Countermeasure comes out, I've been doing some stuff with that as far as I wouldn't rush off and put them in my Zelos. Personally, I want to see what the new targets look like. Because we have the ability to get all these monolith tokens, I am almost tempted to put them on my monoliths as opposed to my Zelos. Because there's no bonuses in the game at this point in time that increase the accuracy of a countermeasure on a ship. So you can only increase range of a countermeasure, not a countermeasure weapon type, not an anti-missile, not an anti-mortar, but a countermeasure as far as increasing its accuracy. So I didn't want to, if you're running, again, I haven't seen the targets, but more my thought is that at this point, I might stick them on my monoliths because I have all these build tokens and allow them to trail or even stack them and allow the shorter range of the Trident, which is going to perform worse against missiles than the Phalanx 4 with like frontline countermeasures or whatever you have on your Zelos. I'm not saying to do this at this point. I'm just saying I wouldn't rush off and coin a bunch of the spring countermeasures onto my Zelos. I would take a good look at that target and then look around and see what's going on before I just start slapping that onto the Zelos, because I'm not certain that's going to be the way to go. It has to deal with the duality countermeasure and the accuracy of the Phalanx and the fact that we don't know if a lot of countermeasures, the Phalanx and whatnot, not the Gales or the Hells or the Hails or whatnot. The mortar ones don't tag something, meaning if they fire, they can fire at it multiple times. So all I'm saying is we don't know enough at this point. But I'm saying at this point, don't go out and spend a lot of time putting these on your Zelos itself until we know more. So
They're actually going to let us go into these things cold, never seen them before. First time you enter, that's when you see what you.
And this, by the way, is the main chore and difficulty spike of the game. It's the main way that people get tech in the game.
Mhm.
It's the most common thing in the game.
Mhm.
It's the thing that people should be able to do first before anything else. And they're just upping the difficulty off it, 5-6 months out. Just cause.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
they're
we
still
did-
giving us a worse off deal.
Yeah,
Even though they kept saying, "Oh, you got uranium and the tokens, and uranium's great, but even the uranium's variable, and the tokens, I don't think it'll match unless you get 7 days, maybe multiple times in a month. I haven't actually done that math, but it's on a perceived average by players, it's still going to be
Ooh.
worse.
Jackpot. Found one.
Where? I'm looking.
Go get them.
No.
Hearing.
Yeah, TSM.
Oh,
We're not
yeah.
talking about the radio tower because that's going to bring out.
I
too
found
much
an 88.
saltiness.
I found the 88
Hope you up
right
there,
next to the
Al.
base.
They're
All
out.
right.
All right, somebody go snipe his fleet. But yeah, we're not going to talk about the radio tower because that's. I mean, the fact that they shut it off intentionally is, that's a problem. Because historically the radio tower would let you know when your base got hit, and then all of a sudden it just stopped working. And now they'll make it work if you are participating in bounty, and the person that hits you is also participating in bounty, and you have your radio tower built and you have email notifications set up. It's I mean, why did they get rid of it in the first place? Was it too much server time sending out these emails to people, or I'm not sure exactly why they got rid of it in the first place. To make you check in on your base all the time? I don't know. I'm not sure what the reasoning was behind that. All right.
So you can see all the offers they give you.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure they, I turned my radio to, or I recycled it, but I'm not sure it still works. But yeah, that would be something, you get emails for every 26 emails for all the TLCs that came out this week. I'm sure that would cause a lot of people to turn it off. But so Toxic, are you doing the raid or the bounty?
It's a big negative.
Okay. Just check and see if
No.
you changed your.
No.
Okay. Change your mind since the last time. What would
I
make
don't
you change your mind?
What would make change my mind?
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't really thought of that. Make the game playable for everyone again. That's what would change my mind. And not add all this stuff and chores and whatnot to it. That would change my mind. Have reasonable repair and build times and prices. That would change my mind too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my main thing's not as far as it deals with the bounty, isn't that. My big issue is the damage protection time relative to the repair times. I mean, they don't need to be, really long, but they need to be long enough to repair your fleet and repair your turrets. I mean, because otherwise it's it's the burning bases game.
I'm just wondering who complained to them that they can't get into the bases with their switchblades or whatever the last hull was. So that they had to build one that will definitely get into a base. Because that's what this is. I mean, even if you're a bad base fleet builder and whatnot, you can get in any base with that hull.
It's gonna be the I win button for a while, so you have to get used to it.
I mean,
Well,
the rage
until
was
they
the
get come out with the counter.
The rage was the I win button for a
2 days?
week, 2 weeks,
2 days. I don't know.
some short amount of time. It's
Yeah, it's, like we talked about earlier in the show. I think we're repeating a lot of stuff as far as, because I don't see how you solve the King's Writ without issue, without eliminating all the other tier 6 all the other halls. So it'll be interesting how they work themselves out of this.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the new hull, the King's Writ, is a 6.5. Yes,
Yeah.
am I right there?
Yeah.
So can you imagine a 7?
I don't.
Kills 2 bases at the same time or something? Or?
Yeah. Don't park too close to Daniel's base. The splash and the mortars
There
might
you go.
actually take out part of your base.
Splash
when
takes
they're coming
out-
down.
The quantum ship. It's 2 days
Yes.
long.
takes out the base
Yeah.
you're hitting and the adjacent 2 bases.
Yeah. Only
You're
with
that
splash
guy's
weapons.
ally mate. You're hitting him too. Yeah, one of these ships looked to be a reasonable power and had intelligent, like easily knowable, understandable weaknesses and intelligent counterplay, both for the attacker in making your emancipators, god killers, and both for the twin blade owner as well, in putting up evade to increase your ability to survive against said god emancipator. So, and this one, where's the counterplay? Like one of these ships at least looks well designed, and one of them looks like they put a few extra zeros at the end of stuff.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it works. And they're like, oh, that's a graphical issue.
Yeah, I would.
That's what I really think the solution to the whole thing is. Oh, I'm sorry, that was a graphical issue. It was only supposed to be 1,100. It wasn't supposed to be 110,000. And then it makes sense.
See,
And-
I'm sort of a bit sorry that you can't claim the prizes during the bounty, because some whale would have coined it by now, and we would all know whether it works or not. That would be that's the silly thing, I reckon. I mean, if you got the points, claim it, build it, then we all know.
I mean, obviously there's reasons why they can't do that in this particular event, because then you just buy down to 0 every time you get a point.
Well, but not if they made it to
A
where
prize that you want.
not if they made it to where you could only use your secured bounty.
That would actually be a pretty neat fix for that. I
Yeah,
could see that.
All you could use is secured bounty. You're done.
Yeah, you're not going to lose it.
No.
Literally, its job is secured. So,
I found a jackpot. And I got a whopping 1,600 out of it.
Better than me.
I mean, it's a little. I find it a little strange that there are fewer bounty grants per day, so the amount of passive bounty generated is low, but the price is also doubled
Yeah.
on a lot of these things. So
And the spawns are halved.
Yeah. Instead of being
I-
4
I-
targets per tower, it's now 2.
Oh, okay. I think this would be a response to last time where maybe they weren't sure how the jackpot targets would work, and a lot of people were able to claim the top prizes simply by hitting the PVE targets. I mean, that's going to happen again this time, I imagine, because it's easier to hit the PVE targets, and you get so much more from them than you would in hitting, almost any actual base. it just makes sense. In addition, actually no, I already said that. So yeah, they're kind of, I guess, countering that by lowering the amount that you can get in general. Kingswood is extra exclusive.
Yep. Go hit more targets.
As long as they don't, like, the TLCs where they give you, like, for the rival ships, there were 5 levels, but one of them was Conqueror, and then 6 levels and 7, but there's Conqueror targets in there. I think as long as they don't require, like, a bus fleet or better to hit the next iteration, I think I could live with that. Because this stuff, the Conqueror stuff, is getting very exclusive now.
It's a good
It's
war.
only released in Bounty. I mean, they release it later in raids, but we still don't really have time to build them.
Anybody
Because
having
Conquest,
trouble locking up when you go through towers?
No.
unconfirmed.
It's caused me to have to reset or refresh twice now.
No, I've always kind of had that issue. I always try and choose my Hyperion whenever I'm just porting stuff, so I don't port with it.
I can't really remember, but in the dock, if you look in your dock and you highlight one of your fleets, I don't know whether it's just since the last update or was it happened to the update before, but it's like a little discotheque in there. You got all the weapons and the special slots. They're all flashing about, and the different specials and what configurations and whatnot. I don't know. Has it been last week or happened this week?
That's been there for a while, but I don't remember when it started. I know that if I log in and the first thing I do is try to look through my fleets or try to like add a ship to a fleet, some of the graphics for particular ships won't load or will take a while to load. So I won't actually be able to tell what ship I'm looking at. And it takes a couple minutes, and usually it gets there in the end. But I'm thinking a similar thing might happen with weapons and specials where they need to load all the graphics. And I feel like that might have to refresh every time you look at something for a certain amount of time, where to be able to, I guess, make all the images available to view. It's really strange. This game is, I mean, I'm sure I don't think it's related, but the game had massive memory leak issues for a very long time.
It's like a big slot machine. It just cycles through until it stops at the right configuration. One-armed bandit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the gold button always works. Buy gold.
Yeah, I think there was a time that didn't.
Yeah, it didn't work.
And
it
they
hasn't
fixed
worked
that
all
in
the
2
time.
minutes.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody have anything that we think good for the general public at this point, or should we proceed to the after show? At this point, I'm only making my money. I got to go in a little bit. I'll still be part of the after show. I'm only making my money at this point from judging what T-shirt contests, and I got one, and then in a little bit. Alrighty. Well, if does anybody have any parting words?
Amused.
Amused. TSM, the man of limited words.
Here we go.
It's on fire. Like the quality control. This
Pour some water on me.
particular week.
Oh my. That's gonna throw off my whole judging now. Look what you did.
Are we talking
You're
moves?
thinking about toxic moves.
Yep.
Yeehaw!
It,
You know what they
Game-
say? There's one in every crowd.
Movelicious.
QC, the QC in this game just feels like it's at an all-time low. Maybe a low for this year, but like, I can't even fathom how these mistakes are made and how many people in sequence have to screw up to make these mistakes, out to us. This is after delaying a release. I can understand delaying a release to make sure everything is, all prim and proper, but your release sucked. There are so many errors on so many different levels. If you're going to delay it, get your shit right.
Now, just imagine if they hadn't delayed it. What would have happened then?
Could it have been much worse?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, I guess I'll end at this point, unless because all we're doing at this point is speculating, and
Yeah.
So I will end the broadcast and see all you kids on Wednesday. Which hopefully there'll be a release on Tuesday, so we can talk about it at that point in time. And I hope your bounty goes all right.
Mm-hmm.
Get your King's Writ, and
Everyone.
yeah, head over to Brian's base. He needs to research the impact of the King's Writ on the game. Or Holsh's base. Yeah, hit Holsh's base first, then go over to Brian's.
I am a statistical anomaly. I will provide you with bad data.
Yeah, yes. So yeah, Corey mentions there's no more Tuesday updates, but there is a chance that there will be a Tuesday update. I mean, because they shouldn't really be doing anything. The FM.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, should we put money on
Oh,
the
God.
chances that they'll delay that another week?
Or it crashed.
Actually,
the whole
raid.
game.
Yeah, I think more of something's going like some guy's going to go into a 115 and get an SOS and die. And it's not going to be his fault.
Yeah. Is that guy you?
Yes, it's going to tell them to clear their
Starts
cache.
on a Wednesday. I mean, could be. Probably won't be, though.
Okay.
I wait.
Are you looking something up, Brian?
No, my audio is acting really weird. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to end the show at this point and see everybody on Wednesday. So good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night and good luck.